This week you will be able to write a fraction with the denominator of 10 or 100 as a decimal. An example would be 0.63 equals 63 hundredths, or 0.5 equals 5 tenths.
A couple things that you're going to want to do. Make sure that you understand that on the left-hand side of your decimal, that's where your whole number is. And then as we go to our right-hand side of the decimal, that's where our fractions come in. And the first place value is the tenths place value. So the second one would be the hundredths place value. Let's look at the decimal 0.36. Now, if I break that apart, I have 3 dimes, because we know that dimes are tenths, and we have 6 pennies, and that means 6 100ths of a dollar. So if I take those apart, I've got 3 dimes, which is 3 tenths, and it also equals 0.3, and I have 6 pennies, which is 6 100ths, which is equal to the decimal 0.06. Now, last week we did this. We added our hundredths and tenths together. So if I take 3 tenths and I add it to 6 100ths, I get 36 hundredths, which is equal to 0.36 as a decimal. Let's look at a different decimal. Let's look at 0.57. So let's break it apart into dimes and pennies, because that's the easiest way to look at it. I've got 5 dimes, and I have 7 pennies. And then if I break those dimes into a fraction, I have 5 tenths, because remember, a dime is worth 1 tenth, but I have 5 of them. And if I put that 5 tenths into a decimal, it equals 0.5. Then if I take my pennies, I have 7 pennies, which is 7 100ths, and the decimal for that is 0.07. Well, if I add those together, 5 tenths plus 7 100ths, I'm going to come up with the fraction of 57 100ths, which then is equal to 0.57. Let's look at something else. Let's say that we have 248 pennies. Now, if I write that as a fraction, I have 248 over 100, because 100 is a dollar. What I do if I have this improper fraction is I would take the 2 out, because I know that I have 200, which is essentially 2 wholes, so that's 2 whole dollars. And then I would take 48 and I would leave it over 100. Then if I broke that apart, the 48 over 100, I'd have 4 tenths and 8 100ths. If I put those into decimals, my 4 tenths would equal 0.4, and my 8 100ths would be 0.08. And then if I add the 2 to my remaining decimal, 0.48, I would have 2 and 48 hundredths. So now we're going to take 6 and 3 tenths, and we're going to turn that into a decimal. So 6 is obviously the whole number, so I put it in the whole number spot, and then 3 is in the tenths place value. So you can refer back to the beginning of the video when I showed you about place value. Now we'll take 7 and 9 tenths, and we'll put that into a decimal. So 7 is my whole number, and then 9 goes in my tenth spot. Now if I take 7 and 9 hundredths, that's a little bit different, because 7 still goes in my whole number spot, but the 9 has to go in the hundredth place value. So I put a 0 in the tenths place value as a placeholder.
What? Today you will learn to talk a decimal, to take a decimal and turn it into a fraction, and turn a fraction into a decimal. Nice job, kids.